Will Tyler Shough have a fair shot at development, ladies and gentlemen? Today, the backdrop, New Orleans football. The conversation, Tyler Shough, Saints rookie quarterback, and his development, the window, the runway that he'll have. All right. Before we get started here, I just want to say, yes, I do think he will have a fair shot at development. I think this whole thing, the whole him and Rattler competition, I think Kellen Moore will choose whoever the better quarterback is. But whoever is chosen, at least initially, the door is not shut. This team wants to win. That's all. Kellen Moore wants to win. He wants to be successful. So if Spencer Rattler gets the start week 1 and it's not working out, they can go to Tyler Shough or vice versa. If Tyler Shough gets the start week 1, it's not working out, then go to Spencer Rattler, back and forth. We've seen this before where, like obviously last year, Bryce Young, year 2, horrific, gets benched, comes back, plays pretty well. All right, so we're way too quick to shut the door, end the story, whatever, on a quarterback. So I mean, I think he'll have all the chances to succeed and all the chances to develop. The only thing is, because of his age, he may not have that second window that we've seen players like Sam Darnold have, where they kind of float around, they go to this stop, that stop, this stop, and then all of a sudden, boom, they break out. Because 4 or 5 years from now, Tyler Shough is not going to be seen as a developmental guy anymore. It's going to be 30 plus.
Let's get into our first segment presented by Shaw Bear Insurance, the Earhart Agency. On last show, you and Mike talked about the trend of quarterbacks having shorter terms of development, having, limited runway to be able to get up and get going before they get going, in all honesty. So do you think Tyler Shough, with him already being kind of up there in age, will have a fair shot at development?
It's kind of an interesting question because you could get put into the situation where you feel like you're rushing him to get out there because you feel like you need Tyler Shough to go out and to play early and to, show you what he's got and all that stuff. And yeah, I mean, I think that's a risk that you run a little bit. It's interesting though, because I don't know if they're going to approach it that way. And honestly, I kind of feel like they're building a situation that is conducive to success a little bit. Like they've invested.
Well, I think it's also that's a benefit of him being taken in the second round, is that you don't have that added pressure of he has to play. You have to prove, if you're a first round quarterback, you got to get on the field. There's no doubt about it. You got to get him on the field. You got to get him on the field ASAP. You got to make sure this pick is going to work out. A second round, third round, fourth round, so on and so forth, you don't have that pressure. So if Tyler Shough is not ready, there isn't that pressure that Cam Ward has. If Cam Ward is not ready, the Titans are in trouble, right? If he's not ready, they're going to play him anyways. Kenny Pickett, was he ready when the Steelers got him out there? Who knows? If Kenny Pickett's a second round pick, third round pick, do they force him on the field that early? Probably not. All right, so that is working in Tyler Shough's favor. Now, it also is working in Spencer Rattler's favor because it's a much more of a fair competition. Whereas if it's, top 10 pick Tyler Shough and Spencer Rattler competing, Rattler would have to be so much better in order for them to not play the top 10 guy, right? So as a Saints fan, it's good because it gives us a fair competition. It gives us a true shot at, okay, who is the better player?
Invested in the offensive line the right way. They aren't trading off their wide receivers or anything like that. And I do think when you get to the end of this, that if there's something that they feel like is going to be like a fatal flaw or something that doesn't allow him to get on the field and have success, I think you can go to door B and you can put one of these other guys out there. It is interesting though, because you could end up in a situation, but I think the thing that really helps him is that.
Well, real quick, as far as the landing spot, Tyler Shough's in a pretty good situation. Offensive minded head coach, brand new system, everyone's learning at the same time, established running back, should be a good offensive line, 2 receivers, one being Chris Olave, who I would say are above average at the worst, right? Jawan Johnson, security blanket, not bad. That's not a bad situation to be thrown in. Most of the time we see rookie quarterbacks have no weapons, horrible offensive line, bad head coach. So Shough isn't a perfect developmental incubator.
This coaching staff is new and there isn't pressure on them at this point. So I think that kind of takes out the urgency of the, well, it has to work with this guy and it has to work right now, or we're all out of here. You're at the beginning of it, which
Yeah.
I think is kind of a big advantage in this type of situation.
Yeah, for sure. And that I kind of think is the biggest point of this is he's not just immediately following up after Drew Brees, who was able to take the Saints to the playoffs for multiple years. He's coming in during a down period. He's coming in during a new fresh period where they're reestablishing and building up from the foundation what this team will be moving forward. And
Well, yeah, and that helps everyone. I mean, honestly, because yes, the expectations, it is low. And I think the fan base is at this point, the fan base just wants a winner. They just want players to root for. And they've been kind of dumped on for the last, 4 years, where they're willing to wait. I think fans are willing to say, you know what? Do what you got to do to make sure this works. Right? Do what you got to do. Just watch my shoes type situation. Right. So even that is good. And it all, sometimes you do have to just look around and say, like, man, there's a lot of positive here. There's a lot of positive for Shough, for Rattler, for this team, for Kellen Moore. There's some developmental time here. There should be a pretty long runway. The Saints historically have not been a front office that's quick, like Carolina. David Tepper he will fire a coach 3, 4, 5 games into a season. Like, there's some franchises or some organizations that are very quick to move off a player, move off a coaching staff, whatever. The Saints have proven to be patient almost to a fault. So Kellen has to know that as well.
he has a chance to be a part of that, or if he plays himself out of it, then so be it. They'll just do it again. And I really think that his, early embrace of the city, early embrace of the culture, it helps him. It definitely helps him a lot. But it all comes down to what you can do on the field.
I'll tell you when all that stops, the second the games start. I don't care how many oysters you ate. I don't care if you are freebasing Crystal Hot Sauce. I don't care if you are doing rails of powdered sugar at Cafe Du Monde. It doesn't matter to me. Okay, you can be picking up a night shift at Rick's for all I care. If you aren't winning, if you aren't performing, if you're throwing picks, if you are struggling, if the team sucks, all that goes out the window. You won't be able to get a seat at Drago's if the Saints are 0-5 and you have 2 touchdowns and 11 interceptions.
And from what we've seen just in snippets and videos and being out there at the one OTA, we're going to go back out there tomorrow, like you mentioned earlier. I think it's going to be an ample opportunity for him to kind of grow into that starter role, if not capture it by the end of training camp.
I'm going to flip this on its head a little bit. I think where this conversation would play in is at the end of this year. Does he get the extended runway for development? Maybe
that question, my friend, depends wholly on Spencer Rattler. If Spencer Rattler takes a huge step forward, then they're going to go with Spencer Rattler. Now, if Spencer Rattler is more of a backup plan situation where Shough wasn't ready, so he played Rattler, but Rattler's no great shakes either. It is what it is. Then I think Shough will get that added runway. But if Rattler takes the step, and Rattler is an obvious starting quarterback in the NFL, and he is above average, if he is the dude, then I don't think they'll go back to Shough, and I don't think it'll be his development per se will be prioritized. It all depends. If Rattler is a below average starting quarterback and they just kind of gave Shough some more time, I think he'll get that extra developmental time.
Maybe not at the beginning. I think at the beginning, you're probably okay. Being the 40th pick, does he get the second Bryce Young season? Because nobody's really that invested in him. I think it could be like a Jimmy Clausen type situation or whatever, like someone drafted a little bit late.
I thought Jimmy Clausen was going to be the man. Loved Jimmy Clausen in college. He's a guy I would have absolutely been wrong on in my draft career.
Where it isn't, you have to make it work because you drafted him with the first pick, you second, third, like where you get 2-3 chances to do it. I think he gets his one look. And at the end of this, if he isn't right, you're looking at Klubnik or Nussmeier or one of these other guys in the draft that are going to be there where you're picking. Because look, if Tyler Shough doesn't work, like you're picking in the top 5.
Yeah,
I think no matter what.
I mean, it is. What would be interesting is if the real interesting thing would be, let's say you start Rattler. Let's say Rattler plays. And let's say Rattler kind of starts off hot, struggles down the road, he's bad, but Shough's not ready, and Shough has very minimal playing. And let's say you do end up in the top 10 again. I don't know if you do take a quarterback, because at that point, Rattler isn't going to work out. But the book is still out on Shough. So then do you say, all right, well, we'll just start Shough next year and we'll just give him a full year of development, whatever. I could see that being the situation where you have a bad year, but you don't draft a quarterback next year. So now, if Shough plays and he's horrible, and Rattler plays and he's horrible, yeah, then I think you take one of those guys next year. But there are a few different iterations of this thing where the Saints could be bad, but don't end up taking one of those quarterbacks.
And then, even if he does work, what if he doesn't work to that percentile where you're saying, I know 100% that this guy's going to be the franchise changer? And let's say Garrett Nussmeier has that development this season where kind of some of that YOLO stuff kind of starts weighing into the right situation for him, where some of these decisions are a little bit less aggressive and he kind of harnesses like all of his talent, because look, he's a really good quarterback. And if he has that last year cleanup, he could look like that type of player coming in. Or, there's somebody we aren't even talking about right now that's going to end up being a top 5.
Yeah, it always happens. Cam Ward last year. Cam Ward wasn't even on the top 10 list of most quarterbacks going into last season. He's his first overall pick, So, and I do agree, if Garrett Nussmeier cleans that up and he has a big year, he's got the intangibles to where, he will be one of those like can't miss prospect kind of guys. That is tough though. Now I will say I think this coaching staff is smart enough to be able to look at the analytics and understand what's going on. I always pick on this guy, but it is what it is. If Tyler Shough is Aiden O'Connell and he looks like Aiden O'Connell and he's playing like Aiden O'Connell, and you can tell, like, all right, this is kind of the ceiling for this guy. Like, we kind of know what we have here. And like I said, you already closed the book on Rattler. I think then, you do take Nussmeier, you do take Klubnik, or whoever whoever it ends up being. But that's the only way I think Shough could play, and you end up moving off of him that fast. Is if you see it's one of those things where you just got to see it, look at the numbers, look at how it's all playing out, and then make that decision where there's no reason to put developmental resources into this guy. Again, like the Raiders did with Aiden O'Connell.
A top 10 quarterback pick probably, because that's how it goes every single year. Maybe Sellers puts it all together and he looks like that franchise changer, or Klubnik keeps progressing and he's that franchise changer. And all of a sudden now you're weighing Tyler Shough against one of these guys.
Right.
Is it enough for him to continue to have that room for development going forward? I think that's where it gets really interesting. I think in year one, I don't think you throw them out there and let them drown. I think they'll approach it the right way and be sober about their decision making or whatever. But it is at the end of that road, or at the end of this year, when you can maybe turn two different ways. It's going to be really interesting to see how they approach that if they're picking in that range. And
well, I guarantee you as well, if the Saints season is sunk, this is kind of a game of if this then that, where let's say the Saints season is sunk. Okay, with 5 games remaining. All right, well, let's say Spencer Rattler is a starting quarterback. Well, that means he's been bad because the season is sunk, right? So he has not been good. So you can then deduce, like, all right, the book is out on Spencer Rattler. We are done with that story. What I would do if I was the Saints is at that point, you have to play Shough because you have to have the data points to weigh him on the draft class. So I think he plays regardless. And then in the last handful of games or whatever, then you are playing him to weigh it against Nussmeier, Klubnik, Sellers, Aller, whoever comes out, right? So there's a lot of different ways this thing can go, which is why I keep saying you have to be careful right now. You have to be careful with what you're seeing in OTAs and what you're rooting for and what you think is going to happen, and because it's so complex. The decision tree is so long. This is not going to be, honestly, it's not really Spencer Rattler versus Tyler Shough. It's like Spencer Rattler versus Tyler Shough, but then it's whoever wins versus the NFL, and then it's whoever wins versus the NFL, and then it's versus this batch of quarterbacks then this batch of quarterbacks, and then the draft class. There's a lot to this. So it's not as easy as Tyler Shough starting quarterback 1, boom, franchise guy, done and dusted. It's like, that's not really how it works, right? Oh, Spencer Rattler had a good OTA. He's the starter. He's the franchise. We're done. Forget about it. End the story. It's not really how it works. This is an incredibly fluid situation. So fluid to the point that it could be happening. Like, it could be Rattler wins OTAs. Rattler gets the start. Rattler gets benched. Shough starts. Shough, whatever, average. Now it's Shough against the upcoming draft class. Like, that's like 7 draft points down the road, or decision points down the road. This is I've said it before and I'll say it again, this is a very unique situation for a quarterback room to be in.
There's a gotta have him type guy in the QB class.
Let's say by week 2, week 3, he is the starter and he goes out and he starts the rest of the games for the season and they end up in that 4, 5, 6-ish kind of range. What does the wins have to look like in the season after that? Because the offensive line, like you mentioned, is already built out. The running game is pretty much built out for the future. Yeah, you can definitely add some talent at receiver. And then at that point, you're getting into Chris's contract. So receiver might become it will become a bigger need at that time. So kind of what would that look like next year to kind of continue to stave off somebody else coming in?
I mean, if Tyler plays 15 games, like he just said, and the Saints are picking 4, 5, or 6, which I think is what he was saying. Again, we're in a then if this then that situation where if Tyler Shough played for 15 games and we're picking 4th, 5th, or 6th, something went wrong. What was it? Right? Was the defense that bad to where we lost those games? Was it Shough that was that bad? If Shough is that bad, but he's still playing and we are picking 4th, does that mean Rattler was also that bad? Was it the running back? Was it the offensive line? What was failing? Something had to fail in order for you to be picking 4, 5, and 6. So that is kind of the context is kind of your answer in that situation. If you're picking 4, 5, or 6, Shough plays 15 games, probably over. As far as like, okay, take Aller, take Nussmeier, take whoever at 4, whoever, because you just saw 15 games worth that led you to that point. It's hard to imagine Shough being really good for those 15 games, but the Saints having the 4th overall pick.
I think it'll just be one of those things where you kind of just know that he's the guy. You know, like I don't know how to really define it. I don't really know what it's going to look like. I just know when we see it, we'll probably all be in agreement on it. If it's, this guy is the guy. I'm sure there's a level of debate. Like if you're picking 4th and it's quarterback 1, 2, and then you're way like there's a scenario where it could be a legitimate debate all offseason next year. But I think if you're talking about replacing a guy that's like actually good, you have to lose a ton of games.
Yeah, which would give you the 4th overall pick. That's the problem. Which again brings you to that if this then that, where he has to be bad. He has to be bad at that point if we are the 4th overall pick. Like, especially if he plays the entire season. If he plays the last 3 games, like I said, then you kind of weigh that against the draft class. But if he plays the whole season like the question posed, then more than likely it's hard to imagine he's out there just letting it rip and something else is going wrong.
And you got to be picking 1, 2, and it's got to be one of those like franchise changers at the top of the draft. It's not, pick 6 just feels like you're kind of, I don't know if there's 5 other teams passing them. Like that's probably not a gotta franchise changer. Like that's a maybe at that point. That's a really good player, but maybe not the guy. It's not Caleb Williams. It's not Jaden Daniels. At that point, you can still get one of them in that range, but like knowing on that day. But
this is a pretty deep class. I mean, even right now, like just the conversation of Aller, Nussmeier, Klubnik, like even that, it's like, okay, there more than likely will be 3, 4 quarterbacks that are probably going to be in that conversation.
Yeah, look, it's going to be fascinating to see where this kind of ends up at the end of the season. I mean, you bring up wide receiver. That's a position now where I think you almost have to draft one every 2 or 3 years because it's become so high paid. And you're in a situation with the rookie where you can kind of keep paying people, but if someone isn't absolutely changing your team, and no disrespect to anybody on the team right now, I don't know that the quarterback talent's there to have it change the team, and I don't know that there's been the this is Jamar Chase, I mean, you can even see
like T. Higgins with Cincinnati, like the deal he got. Cincinnati basically gave him like a 1-year deal. Even someone at that level, they're like, we're not paying, like we're not doing this. We cannot pay these guys. And yeah, you just kind of rotate them in, rotate them out, keep drafting them. This happens all the time in the NFL where a position group becomes this like bullpen, like running back and bullpen in baseball, where you just kind of rotate relievers, like unless you are like one of the best closers in the game, like anybody can kind of do it, get hot for a season, get hot for 2 seasons, whatever. We saw with running back a couple years ago where every running back room was just these like rotational players. No one was getting paid. Now that's kind of shifted. And now receiver is that where you can get by with kind of rotating receivers unless you have Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, like one of these can't miss, knock it out of the park guys. But that second, third tier, it's like what's the difference between whatever George Pickens and Chris Olave and blank receiver here and blank receiver there? It's like, okay, just kind of keep rotating them in, rotating them out, see what you can do. It's all kind of the same. But yeah, you're not paying a premium price for a lot of these guys. So yeah, just draft them.
Yeah, I don't think you have that yet. So that's a position that yeah, you're looking at it as a high value position where you're weighing that against the quarterback. If you aren't in range to get the franchise changer, is it a guy that's worth it to go through another season with, keep evaluating it and see if you can win with them, or do you try, wait and see where it's at a year from that? Like there's a lot of tentacles coming out from this, but
yeah,
it's like I think when we're sitting here next year at this time before the draft, whatever, I don't think it would be a maybe at that point. I think it'd be like or you don't know if you absolutely have the guy.
I can tell you this right now. I will be able to tell you a handful of starts in. 100%. I'll be able to tell you halfway through Tyler Shough's starts. Like, all right, do we have something here? Do we not? Should we develop this? Whatever. Part of it is like this blend of the eye test with the metrics, with the analytics, with the results. Like, and we've been pretty good in the past of that, of seeing players and seeing it all. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know about this. So, I mean, not to hate on the guy. I know he's injured, but it took me literally 2 snaps of Jake Hayner's start to say, all right, get him out. Get Rattler in there. I've seen enough. So we will know. I think we'll know pretty quick.
Yeah, that's a fact. And another thing that kind of popped up in my mind while discussing that is, will that instability at quarterback affect kind of the way that the Saints approach free agency? Will they be able to land some of those bigger fish because they're like, well, we have this guy who might not be the answer, but we're going to have this younger guy that comes in and he'll have to be built up and developed into something. And that really is a factor because, if guys are trying to play for their money or,
I mean, y'all know the answer, ladies and gentlemen. Like, it's all about the winning windows. It's all about when is your winning window open? When is it closed? If we're moving off of Tyler Shough and Spencer Rattler and we're drafting somebody else, that changes the entire trajectory of that winning window. And all of a sudden, everything is pushed a year further. So, yeah, if you are looking at a DeMario Davis or a Cam Jordan or an older player, Tyrann Mathieu, whatever, they probably don't fit into that new window. So, yeah, all of that dictates how you are addressing the upcoming 2, 3, 4 years. These like little 4-year windows, like 4-year blocks are dictated by, do you believe you have the quarterback in the room? Do you believe you have a winning roster? What exactly are you going for? So yeah, if we're not good and we're drafting Garrett Nussmeier or drafting Cade Klubnik and we're the 4th overall pick, yeah, spoiler alert, our winning window is not there. We are trying to find it. So then you push everything a year further, and it absolutely does impact. I mean, Chris Olave would be on another. We have his 5th-year option, but Chris Olave is a good example where if we're the 4th overall pick this upcoming year, let's just pretend he's on a contract year. If we're the 4th overall pick and we're drafting a quarterback, yeah, you probably don't give him a big deal because we're not winning. So it's like, all right, well, we're already kind of rebuilding. We're already kind of trying to find players and get cheaper or whatever. So we're not going to get this contract. We're going to either trade for assets or use money elsewhere. But conversely, if Tyler Shough is incredible and the Saints win 10 games and Chris Olave has 1,300 yards, yeah, you probably do pay him because congratulations, your winning window's here.
Play to get that other contract, kind of like what Chase Young was last year. Do you even explore that option if you know it's not going to be a solid thing?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good question. It is. Where you fall on it?
I, I think you stick with them until you can't. I'll definitely like if you have the opportunity to be in the top 5, top 6, you do it because you're bad enough to be able to be there. But if you're in that like 13 through like 16 range, you get something that's an immediate need. Then after that,
Yeah, I mean, if you're drafting 16th, I had a pretty decent season, especially to like what the Saints, like what their success looks like. So yeah, if you're drafting 16th, I mean, Shough was probably pretty good or good enough, and I think you keep on developing. The answers are in the questions, honestly. Like he just kind of laid out the two different tracks, and if you use the context of the two tracks, it gives you the answer. If we're in the top 5, that means somebody was bad, right? If we're drafting 16 through 20, that means somebody was at least average. There's your answer.
that you wait and maybe you go to the second round again and hit it. But there's gonna come a time where that runway runs out, not for Shough, but for Kellen Moore of, hey, you gotta get your guy. You know what I mean?
I think Kellen, barring like an 0-11 start or 2 disastrous seasons or infighting or winning that stuff, I think Kellen's going to have like a 3-4 year runway without even a conversation of like any pressure on Kellen or the hot seat or anything like that. I would say at least 4 years, unless it's like, holy God, we have won 2 games 2 years in a row. Like, what's going on here?
Continue to invest in you, but you got to get your guy. So I think if it's not this year, then maybe if they are in the top 5 range, that you just got to go for it and get your guy and develop it from there.
Yeah, I mean, the best situation for this team would be is if they actually found their quarterback at 40, and it's not just
oh yeah, hell
it's
yeah.
not just a guy, like it's the guy. He makes
Right.
you believe you can win with him.
Yeah, that noted. I mean, yeah, obviously the best case situation is one of these guys is not just okay, he's whatever average. The best case scenario is like, damn, okay, we can win. Like this guy's legit. This guy's above average. This guy's in that like top 14 range. Like this guy is a baller. Yeah, that's definitely the best case scenario.
So, getting in that range to get a win because guy is tough, and if he allows you to be competitive and play well, like the hardest thing in football is finding a way to win when you don't necessarily have like one of those quarterbacks and avoid getting stuck in purgatory and actually have real chances and actually lift hardware at the end of the season. But yeah, man, like it's like the greatest gift for them would be they end up with their quarterback, they're drafting high, and you can look at the wide receiver, or you can take Woods from Clemson, or you can look at the cornerback from Tennessee, or like whatever the high value need is, because like if quarterback's off the books, both tackles are off the books, like all of a sudden like some of your high value positions are
Well, I talked about that on Trace's when I did the live stream with Trace, but if it all works out, the Saints could have quarterback on a rookie deal, both tackles on a rookie deal, and that's kind of insane. Like that alone is like, oh my God, you can really, at that point, you can really start distributing some money, getting some free agents, and you can really go for it. So that's where that winning window thing happens, where if Tyler Shough is good, and I don't mean like serviceable, I mean good. Kelvin Banks is good. Felicity Fuaga continues to be good. Next year, and then 2027 and 2028, the Saints are all of a sudden like, go spend in free agency, trade assets, get players because we can win now. We have to win now if that's the situation. You've got those guys on cheap contracts for a couple more years. Go all in. And that's where you push every chip you have in. You trade first-round picks. You sign all these free agents. You kick money down the road. And you try and win.
Really, really taken care of.
Right.
And now you can check off another one. And like if you have difference makers at those high value positions, that's when you can start building a program. But
hell yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's where the conversation I think becomes incredibly fascinating is 6 months from now when we're looking at this and it's all of a sudden the picture's clear, things are defined, I think I think where it becomes most fascinating really is like just in a conversational sense, in an academic sense. I think it's the worst thing for the team if it's in that in between phase where it's like maybe you can go one way, maybe you can go another, and it's not clear whether it absolutely is him or if it
Yeah.
isn't, or like I think that's a terrible place to get stuck. But I think just like academically talking about it, like I think that's where it becomes really fascinating is when you're kind of trying to figure out all these scenarios, weigh them against each other, and you're still weighing the quarterback against other quarterbacks, and you're trying to figure out the value of it. And like you can't actually make a wrong decision there. Like if it isn't clear, like I think that's where like I mean that might cause civil war. Like honestly, that's where you get the civil war. But like that's where it really becomes like really really fascinating. I think. But
Yeah.
it'd be a terrible place to be.
I think what happens a lot of the times with the quarterback position is that because of the situation, that like open analysis is not allowed. Because either, like for example, let's say Cam Ward is horrible this year. The Titans aren't going to take a quarterback next year or in the next draft, no matter how bad Cam Ward is, because they took him with the first overall pick. So they have a bias to their own analysis, which could cripple them for a couple of years, right? So the Saints don't have that. If Shough is bad, they will move off of him. If Shough and Rattler are bad, they'll move off of them. They have no pressure to make it work for a couple of years like the Titans do with Cam Ward.
For the team.
Oh yeah, that in between spot is rough. They've had franchises that have been in there for the last 10 years. But something that really kind of was like a pin in my head was to pin the topic for midseason. Once we start seeing some games and once we start seeing kind of how this team gels, is how many pieces away can this team be from being a legitimate threat? Because you have
one. One. Every team's answer is one. The quarterback. That's it. If Tyler Shough is Jaden Daniels or CJ Stroud, that means the Saints are competing for the NFC South and we're good to go. It's that easy in the NFL.
the bookends at tackle. Let's see how Banks, kind of pans out. I think that'll be successful moving forward this season. And if you check off quarterback, you check off, kind of your future at running back, you would really just need a receiver and an end, and then maybe you're almost there. Now,
I don't even think you need an edge. I mean, if Carl Granderson and Chase Young are doing what you expect them to do, you don't need an edge. You may need like an interior defensive lineman, but maybe some cornerback help depending on how that goes. But yeah, I mean, and that's why I keep saying like the team is kind of underrated, because a lot of what they have could be good or at least serviceable. Because of the injuries last year, a lot of that is going to be upgraded. They aren't new per se. Well, Brandon Cooks is, but we are getting a brand new 1, 2, and 3 wide receiver in Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, and Brandon Cooks compared to last year. We are getting a new center in Eric McCoy compared to last year. We are getting like all that stuff, even though they were on the roster, it still is an upgrade. So the team itself is not that bad. The roster is not that bad. Is it a Super Bowl team? Is it all this? No. But it's not a total dumpster fire. F. I mean, even like running back. Alvin Kamara is really good. He should have had 1,000 yards last year. He is good. He is more than serviceable. I would much rather have him than Tony Pollard or Chuba Hubbard or some of these other guys that are on teams in the league. Chris Olave, if healthy, he's good. If nothing else, serviceable. He's right there with some of these guys. Offensive line, I think, will be the strength. So, yeah, we are a quarterback away from being able to make some noise, especially in a weak division.
Linebacker, also have to see kind of what Stutzman is hitting on to kind of secure up that future. But quickly, this can become, 2 or 3 pieces away from being a real, not Super Bowl contender, but a real playoff noisemaker, in my eyes.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you're hitting on everything, you're in a very good spot. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. You're in a very good spot. No doubt about it. I agree with you. The defense feels far off for me a little bit.
Yeah.
Like there aren't pillars. There aren't like long-term pillars. Like the pillars.
Yeah, the defense feels average, I think, because like Nick said, there isn't that cornerstone like even Granderson and Young, and say, okay, even if they're just who they are, that's average, right? One of the cornerbacks would have to really step up to make that a like pillar position. Justin Reed, Tyrann Mathieu, what's the ceiling there? Good. You know, like all of the position group, even linebacker, Demario Davis, Pete Werner, and Stutzman. It's like, all right, I think it's going to be good, but I don't think it's going to be like elite level defense. So yeah, if this team wants to win, it's going to have to win offensively, at least for right now.
Pillars that are there now are going to crumble, I think, before like you're in a position before you're ready to roll. So they definitely need some guys there. But yeah, look, you get a couple of them. You get a good pass rusher. You get a good corner. All of a sudden, like the picture changes a little bit.
And that's what I was saying with quarterback and the tackles, where if you're good at quarterback and tackle, all of a sudden then, okay, well, guess what? We're drafting defensive players. We're going to signing an edge. We're signing a defensive tackle. We're signing a cornerback. We're drafting this. We're drafting that. We're trading some pieces for this. Boom. Okay, we're going to go try and win now.
Linebackers aren't that hard to get. Like the investment isn't significant.
Yeah.
There aren't a lot of times you're drafting them very high. You got Justin Reed there. His timeline's a little bit weird, but like he's probably still got some good years left. So yeah, I mean, if you hit on everything on offense, I think you still need the receiver. I think you still need a tight end, but like it isn't. Yeah, I mean, everything feels manageable if you got your line and your quarterback in place.
And this is another subtopic for this point. I didn't think this point would evolve into this, but it's good that it is. Which side of the ball can you comprise of basically rental players and still be viable? And I'm leaning towards defense. For the answer.
Yeah, it's definitely defense. Defense has changed now in the NFL. You can absolutely get by on rental players or whatever. Defense is way more volatile than offense. If you look at the last couple of years, like the Browns, 2 years ago, I think were like a top 5 defense on DVOA. Last year, they're bottom 5, right? The Cowboys, top 5, bottom 5. It happens all the time where one of the best defenses in the NFL the next year falls. And it's just the nature of the game. So, yeah, you can absolutely catch lightning in a bottle, get some rental players, get a guy here for 1 or 2 years, see what happens. But it's harder to do that on offense because offense needs to be way more consistent. Like very rarely are you going to see a top 5 offense the next year drop to bottom 5 unless there are significant injuries and significant turnover in that, on that roster. But it happens defensively all the time.
It's just so hard to get those pass rushers though in free agency. Like they don't exist. Like Chase Young's about as good as you can do, and he doesn't feel like yet, right? Like he doesn't feel like
he hasn't for the position where he was picked at. Yeah, no, he hasn't reached it.
Or even just as a Saints acquisition, he doesn't feel like a difference maker yet. Like I got to see more before I feel that. Like if you gave me 11 Chase Youngs, like I probably got an okay defense, but I don't know that I got know the Super Bowl caliber.
I also think you can win with an okay defense. I think you can win with if you have an average defense or a top 15 or whatever. You have a really good offense. I think you can win. I think you're okay there.
Caliber type defense. So
like the Commanders last year, the Commanders are one of those teams where it's like, all right, you know how they're going to win.
I think there's just unattainable pieces on both sides of the ball, like that are very hard to get. From where they sit now, like if like changing the parameters of the conversation a little bit for the Saints, where they sit now, the pieces that they're lacking, if we're assuming the tackles are good, the quarterback are good, I think you can rent your way out of. You're in a place where you can rent your way out of that. I think like a little bit better. The defense, like if you have a question mark at cornerback, and you have question marks on the DNs, like Chase Young's a good piece, but I think you still need like one more above unless he redefines how we're having the conversation about him. With this play, which he could, but I haven't seen it yet. So yeah, I would say maybe the offense is maybe the side that you got your TV, you got your DVD player, you go to Blockbuster and get that thing to pop in there, and it all comes together, and you got a good you got a good movie night. But
Blockbuster.
Yeah, I don't think off. I mean, I just don't. Yeah, I think it's. I don't even think it's close. Honestly, I think it's obviously defense.
Golly.
Yeah.
Man, I remember when I was in college, we had a Blockbuster like right across the street, and me and some friends they lived in the dorms, the floor below. where my dorm was, but we would go to Blockbuster. We'd get like 4 movies. Like everyone would pick a movie. And Blockbuster, I know if y'all are young, but Blockbuster, you could rent movies for like a dollar. So it was like the whole thing was like $10 or whatever, and we just go movie after movie after movie after movie on one TV. The other TV, you got NBA Live 2008 or Madden or whatever. You're doing a fantasy draft. You're doing 5 years of a franchise. Like that's what life's all about, right there, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, whatever. You up on Amazon Prime and you pay
No.
the $19.99,
I remember,
whatever it is.
I remember Blockbuster, man. You go in there, you can rent a video.
Whenever I was a wee lad, when I was really young, we used to go to this Japanese restaurant in Biloxi. Shout out Yuki's. It's not there anymore, but it was like next to a Blockbuster. Every once in a while, my parents we'd go to Yuki's. We'd eat. I'm not sure why. Well, this is a rabbit hole of all rabbit holes. Biloxi is a very the Asian culture is legit there. Like we have a very strong Vietnamese culture, very strong Asian cuisine culture. This is like mid-90s. And we had sushi, we had like Vietnamese restaurants way before other people. We were eating this Yuki's was you had to sit on pillows. They didn't have tables and chairs. You had to sit on like pillows like in a tried and true, authentic Japanese type environment. So we'd sit there on these pillows and cushions and eat our sushi and eat our Japanese cuisine. And every once in a while they would let us go to Blockbuster afterwards. If I went to Blockbuster 100 times, which I didn't, but if I went 100 times, 100 times I got a wrestling pay-per-view. I would never get a movie. I would never get a video game. I would only get wrestling pay-per-views. That was it. I'd get SummerSlam 1997, whatever, WrestleMania 10, and I'd be rocking and rolling. I can still remember where the section was in that Blockbuster. You go grab yourself, in your house, 1996, and have a night full of sushi. Lord have mercy.
Game. We used to have something called Movie Magic out here. It was lit. But I got you. I feel I'm not that old, man. I'm not that young. I got you. I've been there.
The movie watching experience was so much better before like the proliferation of like movie reviews everywhere and like access to it and like the tomato meter or whatever. Like you just used to have to go in, you'd have to look at a cover and you'd rent something and you'd have to just decide like, oh, okay, I'm going to watch this. You go home and watch it and you just kind of formulate your own thoughts without that.
So this is we're late in the video, whatever, but there's an idea in marketing where friction creates experiences and friction creates a better experience because you have to be more bought in because of the friction. So I believe this is the case in movies, like Nick's saying, where now there is no friction to watching a movie or a show. You just flip it on. You can pause it whenever you want. You can watch it whenever you want. You can start it. You can stop it. You can rewind it. You can watch it with subtitles. You can watch it without subtitles. You can go read a review. You can listen to a podcast while you're watching it, whatever. There is no friction. So people will stop a movie way easier, right? If they don't like the first 20 minutes, they'll try something else. Back then, that friction of you have to go to Blockbuster, you have to read the cover, you have to choose your movie, drive back home. You only have 48 hours to watch it before you got to return it to Blockbuster. And that's the only movie you got. You're going to watch it no matter what. That friction created more of a true watching experience where I don't care how bad this movie is. We rented this movie. I'm going to watch this movie. And I'm paying attention. I'm sitting down. I'm doing this. Like that friction is missed. That friction is absolutely missed in the viewing experience.
The echo chamber around it.
Sure.
Like there's a lot of movies that are classics now for like people my age. And then you go look at like the ratings for them and it's like at like 63%. And it's like, no, man, like Top Gun was fire. Like, what are you talking about? Like, but I don't think people experience that way anymore. Like groupthink defines how everyone thinks about everything anymore.
Well, it's unfortunate too because there's no original ideas. Everything has to be an IP, like just like known IP. Everything has to be a rehashed idea, whatever. People just don't think the way they used to think. Like that like free thinking and open mindedness or whatever. I mean, like even some of the movies that are supposed to be good now, like Anora, Conclave, like Sinners or whatever. Like those are just bang average movies. But because movies are so bad now, people are like, oh my god, Nora should win Best Picture, Conclave should win Best Picture, Sinners is the greatest movie of all time. And then you watch it and you're like, okay, I mean, it was a movie. I watched it. All right, whatever. I enjoyed myself, I suppose. But people are so hungry for a good movie, that even movies that I would say are relatively average, win Best Picture.
It definitely does define how everyone thinks about everything. I mean, look, yeah, we're gonna keep it at that because this could end up becoming a whole show if we continue on this.
Yes.
Because that's just how conversations go sometimes. But let's roll into our next segment.
All right, there you go. Good stuff, man. That was a long video. I didn't think it was gonna be that long. All right. Thank you for watching. If you made it all the way to the end, let me know. I will see you in the next video.